It's recently been argued by Mark Zuckerberg and others that privacy is irrelevant in the information age. The evidence used to support this claim is that individuals, especially those of a young age, are now more willing than ever to share personal information over social networking websites. It is no surprise that someone in Zuckerberg's position would be pushing the notion that privacy in the information age is unimportant. If the public were to completely abandon any desire for privacy, Zuckerberg would stand to directly benefit. Facebook already has a deep track record of abusing their access to client data. The absence of data privacy would further enable organizations like Facebook to more effectively categorize users and place targeted ads based off of their browsing history. Organizations can also capitalize off of information gathered by sharing it with other organizations. Companies, such as Facebook, have taken advantage of the public's lack of understanding of basic computer sciences. The public ought to be concerned, but are not equipped with the knowledge necessary to properly value their data privacy. To remedy this issue, society must make computer science a staple of the education process. The definition of privacy revolves around the notion of access. There is a never-ending tug-of-war between the desires, rights, and responsibilities of a person who wishes to restrict access to themselves and the desires, rights, and responsibilities of outsiders wishing to gain access. From the perspective of an individual seeking to restrict access, privacy is a zone of inaccessibility. You have privacy to the extent that you can control who gets to enter your zone of inaccessibility. From the perspective of the outsider seeking to gain access, privacy revolves around where to draw the line between what ought to be private and what ought to be public. Facebook can be seen as the outsider seeking to gain access, and the user can be seen as the individual seeking to maintain their zone of inaccessibility. The problem is that Facebook and others have continually pushed the line back to expose more and more personal information about their users without users noticing. The opt-in policy requires that the user explicitly gives permission for the organization to share the information gathered about them with another organization. This policy is less common as information about customers has become a commodity. Organizations will sell and exchange information with each other in order to build large databases of information on potential clients. The opt-out policy requires the consumer to explicitly forbid an organization from sharing information with other organizations. Businesses prefer this policy because most people will not go through the effort required to actually remove themselves from mailing lists. Opt-out policies make it easier for a new business to be successful by giving them access to bigger mailing lists. Some argue that companies have the right to control information about the transactions they have made, making information a valuable commodity. An opt-in policy would take that commodity away from the company. Privacy advocates prefer opt-in policies as opposed to opt-out policies. Unsurprisingly, opt-in policies are far more uncommon. This is where companies, such as Facebook, take advantage of the public's lack of education. Organizations intentionally will make their terms of service incredibly tedious to read through, and as a result are able to gain consent from their users without the users truly being aware of what they are signing off on. For example, Facebook takes advantage of an opt-out policy that is not only difficult to locate and opt out of, but is also purposefully unintuitive so that the average user gives up on the process. Some, such as Mark Zuckerberg, assume that privacy is irrelevant because people are willing to share personal information about themselves over social media. Therefore, those people must not value privacy. The thought process is that if privacy mattered in the information age, then people would take it more seriously. Facebook confuses the public's lack of knowledge on the subject of data privacy as a blatant disregard for the subject altogether. Other opponents of data privacy suggest that giving people privacy results in criminals taking advantage of that privacy to plan and carry out illegal or immoral acts. The thought process is such that if you're a law-abiding citizen, then you should have nothing to hide, and therefore your privacy should not matter. Many philosophers argue that privacy should be based on the fundamental principle that each person is worthy of respect. Jeffrey Ryman argues that we give each other privacy because we recognize privacy is needed if people are to be autonomous moral agents able to act as free citizens. This equates to privacy being a prudential right, meaning that rational agents would agree to recognize some, but not all, privacy rights because granting these rights is to the benefit of society. Organizations argue that they need opt-out policy in order to be successful business operations. Privacy advocates argue that opt-in policy is more user-friendly. Meanwhile, the users are unaware that this debate is even taking place. Facebook and other organizations wish to popularize the idea that privacy is unimportant for their own financial incentives. They seek to further push the line of what is accepted as public information until users have no zone of inaccessibility left. Users blindly sign off on opt-out policies when they accept the terms of service. Users trust that their favorite social networking websites would not take advantage of them, and organizations abuse that sense of trust. Organizations intentionally make it difficult to understand what they intend to do with users' personal information, and as a result, users find it difficult to fear what they do not comprehend. The biggest problem regarding the issue of privacy is not that people do not value it, but rather that they do not understand they are sacrificing it. For the most part, users are unaware that they are agreeing to an opt-out policy when they agree to terms of service. Organizations know that nobody is willing to read through the entire terms of service and take advantage of users' ignorance. You can't hold the ignorant responsible for their ignorance. Rather, the blame should be held by those who failed to properly inform. As we advance deeper into the information age, the subject of privacy will gather increasing significance. If society wishes to maintain any semblance of privacy, then the education system will have to start placing value on teaching individuals about how their information is used by organizations and furthermore, how users willingly participate in providing their personal information. Having a baseline understanding of how organizations can take advantage of your information will force individuals to value their privacy.